Let me tell you, it's a long way to get to Manila from LA. International dateline, jumping ahead a day, and you get there, and as much as you want to go and see what it's all about, it takes you a while to get over that flight. At least that's how it was for me. You get out of the airport and the heat hits you. It's like one of those surgical blankets used to keep people warm, yet it's really humid at the same time. Where I was from, it was still cold, the dead of winter, and it was such a breath of fresh air to be somewhere so vibrant and exciting. I got to the hotel, I planned to drop off my bags, open the door and go out. But a wave of tiredness ran over me, so I just crashed for the rest of the day and night in the hotel, and then, the following day, I was finally ready to go and experience the Philippines firsthand, and I simply could not wait. I was there for a vacation. I hadn't taken a vacation for as long as I could remember. I guess you could just call me a typical guy. I'd worked at a manual job for a long time. In the days and in the evenings, I would just spend time by myself at home. I never found my way into a successful relationship. And when you get to the age of 40, you start to think that you're cursed, like there's nothing you can do to get what you've always wanted. You drag on through 40, 41, 42, and then you start to get desperate and look for alternative solutions. Things were never meant to be easy, but I honestly think that they weren't meant to be hard either. Why was life so difficult? It's a never-ending struggle just to exist. Yet, the never-ending struggle is just that, never-ending. When I found out about the Philippines, and all the guys talking about how it had saved them from the drudgery of day-to-day life, that was something I was keen to investigate. By this point, I was 48. I was tiny little bit overweight, but I wasn't fat like many guys. I wasn't ugly, just an average dude who had never quite found his dream girl. Or any girl. My purpose of being in the Philippines was twofold. Experience something new and hopefully see what the dating scene was like. I was led to believe that in the Philippines, things were easier, and you were more respected and sought after, and the girls, if anything, are a lot more beautiful than the ones at home. At least that's what I was expecting to find when I got there. My first day in Manila, after I spent the 24 hours getting over the flight, was a huge mix of emotions. On the one hand, you're in this new and exotic location. You're being approached by girls when you're walking down P. Burgos Street. You're going for a beer and it's affordable and cheap, and the food's a lot more affordable than home. Yet everything you see around you is just so different to what you're used to, and you start to feel a bit overwhelmed. I've seen many guys over the years experience the same mix of emotions on their first arrival in the Philippines, and this was just like my own. The best way to combat that is to understand that you're just in a different place. It is so different, but those changes are what you need to latch onto and understand, and because of these changes, that's why you're there. As much as you're out of your comfort zone, you do really have to take advantage of that. I was led to believe that meeting girls in the Philippines was easy. I'm not talking about going into any of the bars on P. Burgos Street or up in Angeles. I'm just talking about running into girls, getting into conversations, and taking things from there. I was one of those guys who searched the web, forums, Reddit, anything to read about other people's experiences. And you seem to get these guys talking about how you can just walk up to a girl on the street and start talking to her, or in a park. But they're always talking how easy the girls in the Philippines were to approach. If you're in the heart of Makati, in the business district, and there's a girl that appears to working in an office job close by, that's different than walking by the river and seeing a girl outside one of those little shops that you see dotted around Manila, the ones with metal cages blocking the windows. So you've got to pick your moments wisely. And although it wasn't on my first day doing this, or even second, on my third day I thought, you know what, I'm going to follow the advice of this dude and just go for it. What's the worst thing that could happen to me? They're never going to see me again. So you start to reason with yourself that you might not feel comfortable doing something like this at home. I was in the Philippines after all, and I had to just take advantage of that. I bet it was a sight to behold. This American dude walking around Manila talking to girls on the street. It's not like I was being forward or anything, or insinuating that I was after anything, but the first time I spoke to a girl, she was walking over one of the bridges on the river in Makati. Our eyes kind of met, I said hi, and I asked for directions to somewhere. She said she didn't know, and I had a bit of a conversation, and your heart's pumping as fast as it can. But the girls were so friendly, amazing English, and you throw out the question like, would you like to go on a date sometime? I'm in the Philippines for a month, so I am available. And then you get declined, but after trying that for the whole day, I did meet a girl who agreed to go on a date with me. Went as far as possible, but not much further than that. Then all of a sudden I start to feel like a player, the guy who I'd always felt like I was. That's who I was now, and I owed it all to the Philippines. It was that made me come to the conclusion that I no longer belonged in America. The Philippines was where I was meant to be, and there was nowhere I would rather be. I think being with that girl and enjoying my time in Manila really made me understand. I had to go and see what Angeles City was about, but once you've got the confidence to approach normal girls, places that you get in Angeles, you don't need them anymore. I spoke to another dude from America who swore by the bars, and I said, just approach people, and eventually someone will agree to go on a date with you. It's the Philippines. He looked at me and said, no, I can't do that. I'm not comfortable enough to do something like that. But I guess some guys can and some guys can't. So maybe the bars are needed for some people. I only spent 2 days in Angeles, and then from there, I was excited to go to Cebu, the place I wanted to visit the most. It was awesome. I loved Cebu the moment I got there, and I met a girl that was unlike any of the others. She was not just the sort of girl you wanted to go on a date with. She was the sort of girl who you wanted to spend the rest of your life with. How you come to that determination so soon after meeting her, that's one of those unexplained mysteries of human minds. But I met her in a hotel bar. She worked there, and it was the hotel I was staying at. You'd walk into the hotel, and on the left, they had this little bar restaurant, and in front of you was the lobby, and to the right was a doorway leading out to the pool. After my exploits in Manila, I was extremely confident when talking to people now. I could strike up conversations with anybody at the drop of a hat about anything. That might be a push, but you do get my point. So when I saw that girl working there, I just had to go and speak to her. I can't remember what I said, but because I'd arrived at the hotel early and I couldn't check in for a few hours, I was just speaking to her, and she's smiling with a shy look on her face, and I suppose you could say that the rest was history. She was younger than me. She was called Felice, and she just seemed to have an elegance about her and some form of sophistication, even though she appeared to only be in her mid-20s. And she was working at the hotel bar. These two attributes somehow didn't go together. But you develop your own opinions about somebody when you see them. And that's the opinions I had developed about her. And those opinions are what I would use to base my future decisions on with regards to her in the Philippines. And that's something that is quite important to talk about. We make our decisions in life based on the opinions we have about other people. Yet we're not aware if these opinions are accurate or not, or even real. But I was so sure that what I was feeling for her was real, and she would be the last Filipina for me. I was so sure of it. It's so good that they speak English so well in the Philippines. That makes life so easy, and her English was as good as everyone else's. Occasionally, you would run into people whose English wasn't perfect, but usually English was very good. When it was time to check in, I was called across by the receptionist. I told her I'd come back down soon, which I did, and as soon as I put in the bags in the room and freshened up a bit, I talked a bit more with her and asked her when she was getting off work, would you like to go on a date with me? I told her it was my first time in Cebu and I'd love to go to one of the most famous restaurants that was close by. Would you like to go with me and show me? She wasn't hesitant. She wasn't thinking about it. She just said, I'd love to. I finish work at 8 p.m. That sounded great to me. So I went out of the hotel and went for a walk around. and a few drinks in some of the bars. I immediately felt like Cebu was a place I could get used to, a place that I could spend a lot more time in. I preferred it to Manila, although I did love Manila, and it was considerably better than Angeles. But I enjoyed it. Went back to my hotel, change of clothes, shower, and I went to meet Felice downstairs. It's important to understand that it is so hot there, you need to have multiple showers a day, a change of clothes, unless you're just happy to walk around sweating all the time, which you have to accept, but you don't want to ruin your chances. She took me to a great restaurant close by. Of course, I paid, and we're starting to get into in-depth conversations about life. I found out she was 27. I was 48, and I was definitely one of those guys that was brainwashed into thinking that that's just how things were meant to be in the Philippines. You'd see older Filipino guys walking around with younger Filipinas. Not usually in the daytime, but checking into their hotel. They seemed to be husband and wife, so it appeared like this is how things were meant to be in the Philippines. I had a great first date with her, and I liked her, so anything else wasn't on my mind. And I went to bed that night feeling like, why is it taken me all these years to come to the Philippines? All those years of dreaming for an experience like this at home, all those dreams not coming true. I should have been in the Philippines 20 years ago, and maybe life would have been very different. Felice was smart, she was funny, and I just loved everything about her from the moment I met. She had this great demeanour about her. She was from Cebu. However, she was from a small village quite a long way away from the city. She said she rented a small place in Cebu when she worked and she had a roommate, but she didn't give me any more information. What would you think if a girl said she had a roommate? You'd think it was another girl. You'd ask what the girl's name was, but I didn't think anything of it because a roommate. Across the next 3 days, when she's off work, I'm spending more time with her. Things start to become more serious so quickly. It's like you can't control how fast things are moving. I had to make a really difficult decision. I was due to go to Bohol the following day, and I told her I was due to go there. That I said I'd want to cancel it, but if I did, would you spend more time with me here? She smiled like, I'd love to spend more time with you. So I lost money for the hotel in Bohol, and I spent more money for a new one in Cebu. I did change to a different hotel, so that made it more comfortable when I was spending time with Felice. I spent the rest of my vacation in Cebu, and by the end of it, I thought I'd already found the person I would spend the rest of my life with. It wasn't an infatuation, this was real love, and I could tell she felt it too. I felt like things got serious after the first few weeks on the vacation, so I knew that leaving would make me feel really bad. She was crying the day before I was due to go home. Don't go, she kept saying, please don't leave me. I knew I had to, but it was a fact that I thought that she was into me just as I was to her, so I started rationalizing and trying to think, how am I going to make this thing work? Could I move to the Philippines to be with her? I guess I could, but would I have enough money to live forever? No, I'm not close to retirement. All these thoughts going through your mind. Then I'm thinking, maybe I could do some online work. I saw how much cheaper it was in the Philippines. And then your opinions shift from, how am I going to do this? How am I going to leave America? I'm looking forward to this new life that I'm planning, and I haven't even got home yet and understood what I'm going to do. It's a very strange feeling. The morning that I was due to leave, she was in tears. I was in tears, but I wasn't usually the type of guy who cried or got upset, but I didn't want to leave everything that I thought I had here. But I had to, so I did promise I'd be in touch. I promised I'd do everything to make this relationship work. When I got back home, it was still cold. The grey skies felt like they were telling you that you don't belong here anymore. Going back to work, hard labour, but that was how I was brought up. I wanted to go to college and get into engineering because I always felt like there was more to life than this. But it was my dad who said he's been doing it all his life and his old man had been doing it all his life, so that's what my son should do. So instead of resisting or rebelling, I just, towed the line. I shouldn't have listened to that because I feel so out of place now, especially after knowing exactly what the Philippines had. And that Felice was there, waiting for me. As soon as I got back, I called her, and she was smiling from ear to ear. I miss you so much, and I miss you too. And we started having these long conversations. When she was at work, she turned on the video, pointing her way, and I can see her serving customers in the bar. This is a hotel bar, and it feels like I'm there with her. And then the months drag on, I'm getting more and more desperate to go back. I feel like I need to be back with her, and that's all that matters. If you find yourself feeling like this, it's very tempting to throw out any thoughts telling you to take a step back and be careful. But you can find yourself convincing yourself that if I did this and maybe I changed that and I sold this and I did that, well, that would give me enough money to go to the Philippines and I'd have a long time before I needed to start finding online work. I knew a few guys who worked remotely. This was just before COVID. Just before. Guys who went to school with me. They'd followed their ambitions and it was working for them. They worked remotely. Granted, it was from their house a few blocks from mine, but they still did, and why couldn't I? So you go from arriving home, thinking, I'll go back for a month next year. Then a few weeks later, you're thinking, I'll go back in 6 months instead. Then you're thinking, I'll get rid of everything I have and go back as soon as I can. You try to push those thoughts away, saying that it's not a good idea. But when you're speaking to her and you want to be with her, that's what you want to do. After 2 months of being back, I'd already made up my mind to quit my job. I sold my car, all my possessions, and I rented out my house. That was going to be able to cover the mortgage payment. When I had absolutely nothing left, there was this overwhelming sense of liberation. I'd been liberated from all this stuff that had accumulated over the past 20 or so years. It really is a liberating experience, and it makes you understand that how you were living your life up until that point, you were just part of a big machine. You were one of the cogs, and you didn't need to be. Why did I waste so many years? I just thought I had to. But now I had $120,000 and my house was being paid off by the person renting it, so I still had that form of security. When Felice knew I was going back, she was so happy, saying how she can't wait to see me, can't wait for me to get back, and that was a great feeling, to feel like I was going to be back with the girl of my dreams, the girl who had made my life complete, and I was hoping to build a long and successful relationship with her that could turn into marriage, kids, you name it, I was dreaming about it. I was aware, going into things, that there were pitfalls to dating in the Philippines, hidden dangers that you needed to be aware of. But most of the guys who seemed to have these issues met girls in the bars of Angeles City or on dating websites that perhaps indicated that it wasn't just dating they were interested in. It was more of a financial thing. But I met Felice at a respectable hotel, and the bar in the hotel. That wasn't frequented by anyone apart from well-heeled hotel guests and people who wanted to get out of the craziness into a sophisticated bar. I'm trying to paint an accurate picture of what the bar was like. It wasn't a sleazy dive. I will admit, I thought I knew better. I thought I knew something that the other guys didn't. I thought I'd done my homework and my research, and I avoided everything that I thought I should be avoiding. Every single guy seems to be the same. They are the ones that know better. Nobody knows better though, and that's the truth. No guys know exactly what is going to happen. No guys know anything better than the others. But some are lucky, and things work out. That's just how it is. It's nothing to do with anything other than luck. They just happen to find a great girl who actually loved them for who they were. And luck, at the end of the day, is all it was. But no guy thinks that because they found the right girl, built a house, and they're still together 20 years later, they don't think it's luck. They think it's their own choices and decisions that caused it, when it's just luck. That's all it is. I would say that with all the experience that I have had up until now, it's like flipping a coin and landing heads 10 times in a row. That's how lucky you need to be. I arrived back in the Philippines and I went straight to Cebu. I didn't even spend one night in Manila. I just wanted to go and see Felice. I told her I was going back the day after. I wanted to surprise her, and when I walked into the hotel and to the bar and she was there, her eyes lit up and she smiled this incredible smile like she was the happiest girl in the world. and although she was serving a customer, she ran over to me immediately and jumped on me and gave me a hug. People are telling her get back to work, and she just smiles and rushes back and apologizes, and then I get a nice smile from the manager. It was just as I imagined it. That evening we went out for dinner, and although I was extremely tired after the flight, I just wanted to be with her, so we had a great night. Because I know I'm there to stay and I can realistically last a long time, I just take things slow. I rented a small place after spending a week in a hotel, and we're spending more and more time together. I'm looking online at different bits of work and I'm picking up things. I'm not making anywhere close to the amount of money I used to, but $100 here, $200 there. That is a meaningful amount of money in the Philippines. It goes a long way there, and I was happy to be able to start in the right direction. Perhaps I was running before I could walk yet, but after a month I proposed to her. I wanted to get this solidified, as I wanted to keep her as mine. I knew she was for me. I knew that I wanted nothing more than her, so I proposed to her. I know many guys say that, you shouldn't do that type of thing anymore because the world has changed. That's the type of thing you'd have done if you were in your parents' or grandparents' generation. But I didn't care. I didn't care at all. That's what I wanted to do. But when I did propose to her, she started crying and then she said, I need to tell you something. She said she was already married, but she said she was separated, so she couldn't get married to me now. I felt really upset because I desperately wanted to marry her. But she seemed upset like she wanted to marry me, but she couldn't, because she couldn't get divorced yet. She said it was quite difficult to get divorced in the Philippines and get the relationship annulled. But I said, if that's what you want to do, I'll help you. I'll help you with legal advice and we can go down that route. The grand romantic gesture I planned, I booked a nice restaurant. We still went, but it wasn't the same. But she said, I love you more than anything and I'm so sorry I can't get married. I felt sorry for her in that moment, as I did for myself. But to me, that didn't change anything. She said she was separated. She said she had no interest in that guy anymore because he went off with somebody else, whatever she said, and we sort of forgot about the marriage idea for the moment. But I told her whatever it takes, we will get it sorted. You're with me now, I told her, so you've got nothing to worry about. She seemed to breathe a sigh of relief when I told her that, as if to say thank you. Thank you for making my life better and I love you so much. We didn't talk about her ex anymore, but I was getting more and more serious with Felice. She was still working at the hotel bar, but because I was there permanently, I wanted to move out of the city to a more peaceful location. And I didn't rush into this, but after 3 months of being there and spending more time with her, I did ask her to move with me to, a town further up the coast, see what that was going to be like. But it would be hard for her to get to work from there. She hesitated with a puzzled look on her face as if she was going to say, I don't know. She didn't know what to say. But she did say, can I think about it? And I'll let you know tomorrow. She didn't stay with me that night, but when I met with her the following day, after she'd finished work, she just ran and jumped on me and hugged me, something she seemed to do often. And she said, I'd love to move in with you. I felt like the happiest man alive. I was slowly putting together a life that I'd always wanted for myself at home. A beautiful partner, a happy relationship, everything I'd wanted, I was now starting to build. She did tell me that she wanted to stay working though, and she would find another job closer to where we moved to. What guy listening to that wouldn't think, what a great girl I found? Although she might not be earning a lot of money, she still wants to contribute. She still wants to help, which in turn will be better for me. I didn't know at that point that her reason for saying this was a lot more insidious than you would ever even consider. We found a place to rent in Poblacion, a really perfect setting, everything you could dream of. We just started living life. I was now working online. I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was bringing in about $1,000 a month. I was paying for everything, and everything she was earning from her new job, she would send to her family and help her family. $1,000 a month doesn't sound like a lot, and it's not, but it did mean that I wasn't eating into my savings at an alarming rate. I was spending about $1,500 a month, so it's not a lot of money, and, I had ample time to earn more. Just another little bit more and life would be perfect. I contacted a lawyer to talk about her marriage getting annulled, and they said they would help with the process and how difficult it was and how much it was going to cost. But I thought it was a good investment, so I paid the money and we went to the office together to the lawyer. She seemed extremely on edge when she was there, kind of indicating just, take it slowly, because I don't want to upset my ex. But that was that, and we just got on with the business of enjoying life. She'd leave early in the morning to go to work around 7 a.m, and she'd come back about 6 p.m, 5 days a week. But we had the weekends to ourselves. It was just like a normal relationship. And this went on for a few months. It was great and the happiest I've ever been with a perfect girl. And what more could I want? Literally and seriously, what more could I want? The annulment of her marriage seemed to be dragging on and on. I was getting restless, but I didn't really care because I was still with her. And I was so far, moving to the Philippines was the best decision I ever made. The next decision I made was the worst, which was to agree to build a house, a place for us to live, using some of my savings. She did take me to see where she was from. She even introduced me to her parents, just like a normal relationship. And the fact that they were perfectly normal with me, everything was as you'd expect it to be, that solidified the opinions that I was feeling. She was great, her family was great, so let's put down some roots. I didn't actually build somewhere, but we did buy a small house. More accurately, you would say that I bought a house and put it in her name. I didn't want a condo. I was expecting to be there for years to come, so a condo wasn't anything I wanted to live in. But the house was nice, $60,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was still an amount of money that I would rather have than not. So we move into the house and everything's great. I'm even starting to earn a little bit more money online, around $1,200 a month, so I'm getting more and more happy about the situation. A little bit money a month or more, and I'm set in the Philippines for good. I'm getting excited about that. It was great having our own place. Of course, that meant that we didn't have to rent to pay, spending $300 a month in rent, so that immediately made a difference to the monthly living. She's still working, using her money to help her family, and I start talking about having kids with her. I hadn't had kids, and I was still of an age where I thought it was just about time. She said maybe, but let's wait a few more years before we do that. And the way she said that, it was like, it's not open for any more negotiation, so don't talk about it again. So I didn't, and didn't think anything of it. This was the start of 2019, by the way, and if I'd have known a year later what would have actually happened, I'd have checked to make sure it wasn't April the 1st and someone was playing a practical joke at my expense. I didn't know where she worked, what she did. She just said she worked at another hotel that was close by. She had her own motorbike that she had used ever since I met her, so she went on that to work. So why would I go and check to see that she was actually working? That would be something you just wouldn't do. And how I found out the truth was purely accidental. We were going to the lawyer's main office again. Must have been at least 3 months after we'd been last time, and her ex was going to be going as well, see if we could come with some kind of solution that would make it easier if he was going to play ball. So we get there and it's talked about, and I agreed to give him 150,000 pesos just for him to play ball. I hand him the cash over in the lawyer's office, and things seemed to be progressing. She was due to go back to work. I was due to go back home and do some work, so I left first. But I realised that she took me on the back of the bike to get to the lawyer's office, and I left the keys for the house underneath the seat. So after 5 minutes, I go back and she's still there, stood next to the bike with her ex, who is holding a little girl that must have been 3 or 4 years old. Not only that, they're all hugging together, and she's got tears in her eyes, and he's got tears in his eyes. And she looks up and sees me and turns pale. When the child said, "Mama," she turned even more pale. I hadn't yet grasped what was going on, so I just said, "Is everything okay?" "Mama," the girl said again. Then things started to hit home. "You've got a child?" I asked her. And she averted her gaze and said, "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me about your child?" She didn't say anything. Then something very strange happened. Her ex put his arm around her shoulder and said, "We will never get a divorce." I'm very confused. I don't know what's going on. "What do you mean you're not going to get a divorce?" "I love my wife," he said, "and she loves me." I didn't believe what he was saying at first, but I turned to her and the look on her face that everything that he was saying was true. I had to ask, is this true? And she just looked away and nodded her head very slowly. That's when it struck me what had happened. Now I knew why things were taking so long for the annulment. Come to think about it, that's where she was going every day of the week. I had become her job. I was giving her bits and pieces of money every now and then. It wasn't a lot, but then you think, F me, they've been working together. He's been allowing her to spend time with me, and now they've got a house out of it. That's when your whole world comes crashing down. Then I remember we went to visit her family. I asked her, you mean to tell me your parents are in on this as well, and they know everything? And she looked at me and nodded her head again. How low can you go? I was heartbroken, completely heartbroken. I wasn't married to her, yet I had just bought a house for $60,000. And 5 minutes before, I was expecting to go back, get the keys for our house, and go back to work. So she could go back to work as well. Yet how your life can change in 5 short minutes is remarkable. Desperation on her part, and most important to note, desperation on the part of her ex for allowing this. Who isn't her ex? And as much as I felt visibly sick and devastated about what I found out, I was still madly in love with this girl. I turned and said something to her husband. You mean to tell me that you were okay with staying by yourself with your daughter while your wife was... You can picture what I said. I was graphic, I was rude, I was crude, and I could tell he was visibly furious inside, but he couldn't do anything about it. I'd lost it. I took the keys for the house, went back and took all my stuff. Everything that I bought in the house I took. Little things like the microwave, kettle, toaster, everything like that I bought. It was all my stuff. So I took it and found somewhere to discard of it. They could go and live in their house now, but they're not going to have enough money to make it nice. I was heartbroken, but actually more angry than anything else. Her roommate, I guess it was her husband, and the fact that she had a child she didn't tell me about. Sheer desperation, I guess, on her part, or was it more of an opportunistic attempt to get some money out of me? But if someone offered me $60,000 for nearly a year with my wife, I probably wouldn't have taken it. I mean, I wouldn't have even taken $1 million for that, so I don't know what to say anymore. But that taught me some very, very harsh lessons about reality in the Philippines. They're on a whole different level of not having anything, and these things like that make you understand that. But I lost $60,000, probably another $10,000 on top that I'd spent on her. I can take solace in the fact that I didn't lose all my money. I didn't sell my house in the US. That's gone up in value by more than double what I lost on the house that I bought, so you win some, you lose some. But it took me 3 months to get over that. I left Cebu, didn't want to return, but I will admit to being in the Philippines. I'm now making a couple of $1,000s a month. I met another girl, and so far, there's no indication that she's doing something similar. You start to ask more questions now, like, are you married? No. Are you sure? Yes. Do you have any children? No. Are you sure? Yes. Are you absolutely sure? Yes. If you were married, would your husband be prepared for me to live with you for a year so you can get a little bit of money out of me? Then she looks at me like I'm stupid, so I have to explain what happened to me, and she said she was so sorry to hear that. She said that is not normal behavior from Filipino people, but how was I to know that? It was my first experience in the Philippines, and it was a bad one. How long do I need to stay with this girl before we get our own house? Or do I just resort to buying a condo? I'll leave you by saying the Philippines is amazing. The people are amazing. It is more affordable. It's a better way of life. But the amount of people that get burned in the Philippines is obscene. I do consider myself lucky that I did find out when I did, because I could have done and lost more. I could have been more committed. I could have fallen for her more. I loved her, I really, really did, and I wanted to get married with her and spend the rest of my life with her. But it's amazing how quickly you can fall out of love with someone when you realize what the truth is. Let's see what happens with my new girl. I've been with her for 3 years, and I'm the ultimate paranoid individual now. I check everything multiple times, and so far, I feel like I got a good one. Until it turns out she's not. If or when that happens, who can say?